I love like counting along on the countdown as it's going, and I'm sitting here, you guys. I'm like 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. Hi, welcome back to the stream. Happy Thursday. Am I a little bit amped up on caffeine right now? Yes, but that's okay because I totally thought it was Friday when I woke up this morning, and I was ready. I was psyched for the weekend, and it's not the weekend. Am I slightly depresso espresso as a result of that? Yes. Will we get over it? Also, yes, because we get to spend the afternoon together. Welcome back to the stream, everybody. I'm super happy to be spending this Thursday afternoon with all of you lovely people. We are live right now on YouTube, on Rumble, on Locals, on Getter, and on Facebook. And we have a super fun subject to tackle today all together. I really am so inspired by all of the responses that you guys have been sending me in the last 24 hours or so since our stream yesterday with my new sweet friend Riley Gaines. We'd been working on setting that up for a really long time, and I know you guys all really enjoyed the conversation happening in real time. It performed super, super well, especially on Rumble, and I know you guys are wanting more guests on the stream. Have no fear. We are working on getting some really, really spectacular guests on the stream for the next couple of weeks. I'm not going to reveal too much behind the scenes, but people that you have all requested, people that you all are excited to see having important cultural conversations with us. Riley is just the beginning of our star-studded fall guest lineup on the stream, and I'm glad that you guys have really enjoyed it. Heads up today, I know some of you guys over on Locals have said you're having some tech issues with not getting the video or the sound. Rumble, I hope you are not experiencing some of those issues. I know based on good authority that they are revamping some things on the back end technologically with how the live stream works. I don't really understand technology. I don't understand all of the coding and all of that, but they are updating some things over on the Rumble servers today, which house Rumble and Locals for our stream. So if you guys have any weird glitches, try just refreshing, close your browser, reopen it. But I know that they are working really hard on improving the product over there, which is great because especially on Rumble, we have just seen an explosion of both live viewership and viewership on the stream after we finish every day. Lots of new followers over there. And a lot of you guys have jumped over to join our Locals community, which is spectacular. Locals is kind of like social media for a place for people who hate social media, basically. You guys have the capacity to post in our community as well as me, so you guys can get to know each other a little bit better. We're doing in-person IRL meetups here very soon just for the Locals community, and we have special content that only exists over there, including our post-stream Q&A every single day. So would love to see as many of you guys join us over on Locals as possible. But no matter where you're watching, I'm so unbelievably grateful for you, especially when you guys share the stream with others. Do me a huge favor as we're getting started today and hit the like button on this stream. That could look like a little thumbs up or a heart. Ring the notification bell so that you always know when we go live or upload a new video. And most importantly, you guys know the drill. Do you know what to do? Smash that follow or subscribe button no matter where you are watching. And make sure that we can get these conversations out where they need to go most. Tomorrow, we are going to have a little bit of a different streaming schedule, just a heads up, because I'm super happy that I am jumping on a couple of airplanes, not just a airplane, with my fiance, and we are going to Utah to visit my grandparents, which I haven't seen my grandparents in oh my gosh, forever. Maybe like over a year, which is really sad and really crazy to me. But I'm going to see my grandparents because this weekend is simultaneously my sister's 21st birthday and my grandpa's 90th birthday. So we're doing like a huge big party all together as a family. And I'll just tell you who our guest is going to be tomorrow. I'm actually inviting my grandpa to be on the stream with us to talk about all of the things that he has learned by 90 years old. And if he could tell himself anything younger to his younger self, what would he tell himself? It's going to be really fun, but obviously requires that we sit down and record that. It takes him a little bit longer to get adjusted to this kind of stuff rather than doing it truly live. So we're going to do a little bit of a different setup tomorrow, and it'll probably be later in the evening, just as a heads up, but I will keep you updated based on my flight schedule and everything tomorrow. Lots and lots of good stuff to come. I know I'm seeing some of you guys say you have issues on both Rumble and Locals. I am so sorry. I do not know why that is happening. Try just refreshing it if it's an issue, or if you need to jump over to Getter or Facebook or YouTube, you guys can come find us live over there as well, just in case we keep having issues. Okay, guys, I know there's a ton of people in the chat, way too many people to say hi to right at this very point in time, but hi, I see all of you. And throughout the stream, let me know who agrees with what I say, who disagrees with what I say, if you learned something new, and try to get to know each other as much as you can live in the chat as well. I picked the topic for the stream today based on a video that I'd seen go super viral on TikTok about this YouTube prank guy who has like a prank channel on YouTube crashing New York Fashion Week, and he stole basically the opportunity to run out onto a runway at New York Fashion Week this week and wear an actual literal garbage bag and a shower cap and strut his stuff down the runway until he was essentially tackled by a security agent who had been preparing for this for his whole life. Like, this man was ready for the opportunity to kick someone out of New York Fashion Week, and literally nobody in the audience, until he was tackled and escorted out by security, even batted an eye. To them, wearing an actual garbage bag that probably cost 5 cents and looks like it doesn't look good, resembled something worthy of being trotted out on a runway at New York Fashion Week. So this video is totally blown up, has obviously served as a commentary on how ridiculously distorted the fashion industry has truly become. And I want to watch this video with you first, but before we do that, segue afterwards into how I have noticed over the last several months in particular the death of objective beauty and the death of objective design and detail and intricacy in society. Not just in the fashion industry, which is what everybody is talking about this week, but in the beautiful visual art industry, when you go to an art museum, in performing arts, in even architecture and public infrastructure, and ways that you could never, ever, ever imagine. Somebody is systematically and on purpose removing beauty, detail, and design from our society. And I believe there is absolutely an ulterior motive behind all of that, which we'll talk about at the very end. So we'll kick things off. I'll show you guys the video that I made about the guy walking the runway yesterday, and then we will jump right in. So I guess this week at Fashion Week, some random guy just decided to throw a trash bag on and storm the runway, and literally not a single person in the audience batted an eye. Look at this. So pause. He walks out onto the runway, and he's wearing an actual garbage bag. I know it's pretty small, so I don't know if you guys can really see, but he's wearing an actual garbage bag, and people are taking pictures of him. They're like smiling, they're clapping. It's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. A literal trash bag. And then security comes and tackles him. When you think about it, though, it's actually really sad, because Fashion Week and just the fashion industry in general used to be about creating literal art that you could wear. I think about old school Oscar de la Renta at Fashion Week, or Chanel, and now you can literally get away with just wearing an actual garbage bag on a runway and people don't even blink, because we've completely twisted fashion and modern art, arguably postmodern art, away from objective beauty standards and something that we could all appreciate as beautiful, to the most bizarre, weird things just for the sake of saying that we are progressive. We gotta bring back real art again, because I'm getting real tired of looking at a random shape on a canvas, or a literal toilet, or a guy wearing a trash bag and calling it art. Who is that girl? She's so smart. There's like Isabel Inception there on the screen. I'll tell you what, though, I've noticed this across the board, right? This is happening everywhere. It's certainly happening in the fashion industry. I see it all the time in visual arts, but the more I've started to pay attention to this, the more I've realized that the decay of beauty and the destruction of detail and the overt modernization of everything, not just our clothing and the art that we go look at in an art museum, but the buildings that house that art, and the sidewalks that we walk on to get to those buildings, and the streetlights that are near those sidewalks. The more we've seen in the last several years of this, I wouldn't even call it modern architecture anymore. I would call it postmodern architecture, because we've just devalued anything that architecture or infrastructure or art or fashion or anything has truly been rooted in to basically mean nothing in the 2020s. And this guy wearing a trash bag is just the exact perfect illustration, in my opinion, of what that actually looks like when we get to the farthest, craziest end result of devaluing beauty and devaluing detail. That some guy pulling a prank can steal the show, walking onto a runway where he's not supposed to be there, wearing a 5-cent trash bag that's supposed to be inside of a garbage can, and everybody will clap, everybody will take pictures, nobody will bat an eye as if it's not supposed to be there until they realize it was a mistake. But there are so many other areas of our life where we're doing this and we are applauding and or recognizing as positive, or just are completely oblivious to where the devaluation of beauty and the devaluation of detail and intricacy is happening in society. My friend Reagan Scott, who is awesome, I've met her when we were working back at Turning Point long ago. Now she is a mom, which is so awesome, and an independent content creator herself, did a whole breakdown of this on her Instagram stories a couple of months ago. And I had never really thought about this logically. I'm sure I've noticed it subconsciously, but never overtly sat down to think about it until she started putting images up side by side about the death of beauty and the death of detail, especially when it came to infrastructure and architecture. So come check this out with me because it is just wild. She says, "Embrace modernity," they said on her Instagram story. And above, you can see one building that's absolutely spectacularly beautiful. I think this is the Smithsonian Castle in Washington, D.C. I could be wrong. And right next to this is the memorial for JFK. This is the JFK Memorial, which is the ugliest, weirdest building I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just literal pillars of concrete arranged into a cube. That's it. It's nothing. It is literally nothing. It is in Texas. Everybody's asking. This is the memorial for JFK's assassination. And there are countless examples like this. Okay, but seriously, is this the best we can do for an assassinated president? She asked. Architecture used to be meaningful and beautiful, and now we remember John F. Kennedy with a block of concrete. She went on to describe how these are pieces of architecture and art literally across the street from each other. One is more traditional, beautiful, intricate architecture, and the other is an orb sphere reflective thing that kind of looks like something an alien would have landed from outer space in an Avengers movie, in my opinion. She said a few thoughts on the architecture thing, and I think this is so unbelievably wise, so shout out Reagan, you are a wise person. Architecture is what makes up the physical environment around us. Much like art in a museum, it makes us feel things. It impacts our mood and our disposition. Architecture used to evoke feelings of admiration, awe, and appreciation for the artist, the time, and the detail put into it. What kind of feelings do you think blocks of concrete and obnoxiously plain architecture evoke? Compare what you may feel walking around the unique historic neighborhoods in Washington, D.C., which I used to love to do when I lived there. That was one of my favorite things to do, versus a line of plain apartment buildings in an urban city. For all of history, architecture, believe it or not, has been used as a subtle political tool. It's been used to exhibit great power like Napoleon's Arc de Triomphe or the Vatican or Versailles, but it's also been used as a salutation to communism, where everyone, like the buildings, is the same. And I've never consciously thought about this until somebody laid it out right before me, but it is wild to think about. This is Soviet-style architecture. These buildings were built at the height of the USSR, and this is the imagery that the communistic government of the USSR wanted to create and bring to life to invoke certain feelings in their population, in their citizenry. If all buildings look the same, if everything is just this concrete slab, essentially, that theoretically mirrors the fact that people were all expected to look the same, to act the same, to be the same, even if that means devaluing potential, devaluing beauty, devaluing intricacy as a result of that. This is the exact same site. This first building is from the 1950s, and this one is from the 1960s, and they tore this building down in order to build this one, because that makes perfect sense. Because that was a good move when it came to improvement of a beautiful architectural historical site. One of the actual communist goals in 1963 was written as a plan to aid in overthrowing the United States, and it specifically emphasized the need to discredit culture by removing forms of artistic expression, control the artists, demean the creativity, embrace the ugly. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. Frighteningly enough, we've been watching a slow decline of the US since then, and the architecture and the art is exactly how communists want it to be. I think the way that she phrased that of architecture and art mirroring people was such an interesting phrase, because ultimately, if people can get away with making all buildings ugly, if everything is ugly, then nothing is ugly, right? If people can get away with devaluing the beauty of art so much that all art is ugly, therefore nothing is ugly, then all art is beautiful. It kind of comes around to this, everything is just whatever I want it to mean, and like my truth is different from your truth, and my interpretation of beauty is different from your interpretation of beauty. And while that is true to some degree, there is an objective standard of spectacular beauty that humanity is forgetting about day by day the more we lean into this bizarre, make everything uniform so that nothing is special anymore. It's kind of like Syndrome in the Incredibles movies when he said, if everyone is super, then no one will be, right? That was his villain arc character development, to devalue what it meant to be a superhero, even if that was special, even if that was worthy of being celebrated, because he felt insecure about the idea that not everyone could achieve that. But in the process of doing that, he would have stripped the world of everything spectacular and special and unique that superheroes brought to their story in The Incredibles. And it's the exact same thing that we are starting to see with art. So if you look at Washington, D.C., for example, where I used to live, I love Washington, D.C. Part of the reason I think D.C. has such an interesting architectural footprint is because D.C. was designed by French architects. It was designed to look like Paris and look like beautiful, historic, stunning French architecture, Gothic, Victorian, and otherwise. And you see that shine through in our Capitol building. You see that shine through in art galleries and the monuments and memorials all around Washington, D.C. And obviously it mirrors everything that I see whenever I go see Europe or travel abroad. This is in the United States of America in Washington, D.C. This building right here is called the Renwick Gallery. It is right next to the White House. If you've ever seen this and been to Washington, D.C. and walked past the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue, I lived about 7 blocks from here when I lived in Washington, D.C., and so I used to go to the Renwick Gallery all the time. It is a spectacularly beautiful building. And down below is one of the new Smithsonian buildings, because that's supposed to make you feel great about art and make you feel like things are beautiful and appreciate intricacy and design value, I guess. How? I don't exactly know. This, obviously, you guys can probably guess, I think is the New York City Public Library. It is a library in New York, but I think it's the New York City Public Library. And that's what a library looks like that we build now today. One is iconic. One is a slab of concrete with squares cut out in it. If you look at churches, part of the reason I'm so proud of my Catholic heritage is because Catholic tradition has very strict, stringent rules on what churches are allowed to look like, that churches are supposed to glorify the dignity and the beauty of God rather than be in hollowed out grocery stores or abandoned strip malls that look like random slabs of concrete, right? Old churches evoke this sense of grandeur and awe and bringing your eyes towards the heavens. Modern churches are sometimes literally in grocery stores, literally in abandoned strip malls, in gymnasiums, in random buildings. And that's not to say that it's impossible for a church to thrive in one of those buildings. Certainly, I don't believe that. But I do think that architecture evokes certain emotions, right? So if you're trying to get people to focus on worshiping God, putting them in a setting where that is more easily possible versus trying to strip away their connection with beauty, with art, with literature, with these beautiful things that God created through culture over time, makes that really, really difficult. Museums used to look like this, which looks like a freaking castle, and I absolutely love. And now we build museums like this. The museums in Miami look like this, by the way. They're very brutalist, I think is the right word that I'm looking for. Slabs of concrete, very bizarre shapes, like it's just a tough exterior, and sometimes that can look okay. But if I was ever given a chance to go to a museum that looks like this or looks like this, which one do you think I'm going to pick at the end of the day? Hospitals used to look like this, and now hospitals look a whole lot more like prisons than they do a place of healing and a place of helping people get better. But this goes far beyond architecture, and I think this is where I want to tie everything in. This is happening in subtle, subversive, behind the scenes ways that I think our consciousness hasn't really even picked up on yet, because we don't notice the tiny details all around us, and we don't notice all of the little parts of infrastructure that we experience and we sit with every single day, like benches on public city sidewalks, or light posts that light our way when we're walking home in a city, or even the little posts to keep people from loitering too much or keep traffic from driving towards buildings, like the little posts that you see on sidewalks. We don't really think about this consciously as something that deserves beauty, that deserves intricacy, that deserves design. But as we've devalued design, intricacy, and beauty from art, from fashion, from infrastructure, from architecture, of course, we're also going to do it with infrastructure as well. Lamp posts, for one, used to look like that. Spectacularly beautiful. And now lamp posts are just like, I actually don't hate this particular design, but lampposts are usually much uglier than this. But like, take a second and just look at the tiny, intricate sculptural detail at every single level of that top lamppost. Just beautiful, right? Beautiful to behold. Benches. Think about how long it would have taken to carve out each individual piece of this intricate ironwork versus now. It's something worth noticing, even if we walk by it every single day and we think that it's just like not even worthy of our thought process or not even worthy of our attention. Now that I've noticed this, I will never unnotice it. Every time I travel, every time I'm in big cities, etc. The little, I don't even know what you say. Like, I call these posts, but they prevent people from like driving into buildings or loitering or whatever. Look at how beautiful and intricate that post is versus what looks like a silver dildo. I mean, that's literally what it looks like. How sad is that? That we've removed intricacy. We've removed beauty. We've removed anything of value. She says, to quote Winston Churchill, and I actually didn't even know Winston Churchill said this, "We shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us." Art is about so much more than just like having something pretty to put on your wall at the end of the day. Art is about more than going to a museum every once in a blue moon because your wife begs you to go to a museum for the sake of going. It's about invoking emotion. It's about sharing the human experience. It's about letting people be inspired to believe that more is possible, to appreciate hard work, to know that we can push ourselves to new heights and create new challenges and bring humanity into new frontiers. And I think about all of the places I've been so privileged to travel to throughout my life. I've traveled all over the world. I've been to 20 plus countries, and I'm so unbelievably, fortunately grateful for those opportunities, mostly through my education, through school. And I think about Rome and walking around the city of Rome with tour guides telling you, oh, nonchalantly, this building was built in 400 BC. And I can't even wrap my head around something like that. I think about the times I've been so fortunate to travel to Israel and walk through the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is been there and been being built since like 300 AD and is on the site where Jesus Christ was crucified and where his tomb was, now is empty, spoiler alert, so you're not really missing anything in there in case you ever do have the chance to go in. Or the city of David that was built by King David of the Old Testament, and you're walking through and you're experiencing this sense of grandeur and beauty even then, when architecture and infrastructure was much more difficult to accomplish. I think about right before my senior year of high school, after I had finished AP Spanish, I spent a few weeks in Spain with a host family to solidify my Spanish skills. I'm extremely rusty. They would be wildly disappointed in me, so maybe we need to repeat that one of these months. But walking around in Barcelona and seeing the Sagrada Familia, which is the longest standing human construction project ever. It's been under construction for like 100 plus years. It's going to be under construction for several more 100 years. And if you've ever been to the Sagrada Familia, it is a spectacularly beautiful cathedral there in Barcelona. And if you look at the outside, it looks weird. It looks like a child's paper mache project. It looks unfinished and awkward and under construction, because it is still under construction. And you go inside and you see these massively spectacular stained glass windows and just a rainbow of colors and a level of beauty that you could never wrap your head around. And if you do any research about the Sagrada Familia, or Antoni Gaudi, who is the architecture of the Sagrada Familia and many other places in Barcelona, Park Güell, for example, they are tiling outside of the Sagrada Familia, which is this brown, lumpy, like paper mache looking project with individual mosaics until it's done, no matter how long it takes. So the outside is going to look a lot more like the inside whenever it is finished someday, hundreds of years from now, when we're all going to be long gone. But I've been explained by my friends who live in Europe for this many, many times. Americans build things for convenience. You want something done as soon as humanly possible so that you can start utilizing that building. But Europeans, and particularly the Romans, when there was the height of the Roman Empire, remind me, we'll come back to the Roman Empire at the end, they built things for eternity, and we still build things for eternity. That's really where our brains go. And so I think about the art of eternity and the beauty of eternity that people who came before us worked so hard to create. The David statue that will always be spectacularly renowned all over the world. Big Ben, the clock, and Westminster Abbey, and all of the beautiful things that you see in London when you go visit there. Most things that you see in Europe, but many other places around the world as well. And then I look at what we build today, and I have to imagine that some of that has to be on purpose, right? Because even here in the United States of America, you look at, in Washington, D.C., for example, the Lincoln Memorial, which is one of my favorite places to go, especially late at night. Pro tip from a former D.C. local, do not go in the middle of the day when there are going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there. It's not really worth our time to go sit there through all of those crowds and try to take a picture. It's just awful. Go in the middle of the night, like midnight to 2 a.m. That is the best time to go visit all of the monuments. But sitting there on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial at like midnight, when nobody is around the reflecting pond, nobody is sitting there on the steps, it is a very serene and cool experience to read about Abraham Lincoln and what he fought for to preserve this country and preserve our union. So you look at the Lincoln Memorial, and then you look at the Hubert Humphrey Building. Both are located in Washington, D.C. Both are federal buildings, but both clearly were designed to invoke a different takeaway from people, right? When you look at this building, and if you've ever seen it in real life, you have this sense of awe, this sense of wonder, this sense of respect and reverence for the person it is paying homage to. Then you look at this building and you think, wow, that's the ugliest building I've ever seen. Or it doesn't even invoke any emotion. It just makes you numb and dull. Because modern architecture, I would argue we are in postmodern architecture, sucks. It sucks. I was just at this building a couple of months ago in Ottawa, in Canada, on Parliament Hill when I spoke at the March for Life, and was totally in awe of how beautiful the buildings on Parliament Hill were, and then how much I was completely unimpressed with the architecture of the rest of the city. Any Canadians want to weigh in on that? Please do so in the live chat. If you've ever been to the Galleria in Milan, spectacularly beautiful. The Duomo right next door in Milan, spectacularly beautiful. And then you walk around the rest of Milan, Italy, which is a very modernist city, and you feel like you're walking around downtown New York. Like, it's like, okay. Like, nothing special about it. I've been to Milan once. I will probably never go back because I didn't get anything special about it. I didn't feel a sense of culture. I didn't have an opportunity to immerse myself in what it meant to be in a large Italian city the same way that you can in Rome, in Florence, in Venice. Milan was just like, okay, like that was nice. I saw one nice building along the way. And the more that you study this, the more I think it's just fascinating. This is, for example, the Civic Center in, I cannot pronounce this town's name, so I'm not going to try. It's a hockey rink, and it's like a concert venue and all kinds of stuff. You guys might be able to pronounce that better than me. It looks more like a jail than a hockey rink, like a place to go to events, like a place to celebrate human achievement, right? Look at the new buildings that are being put up in Paris in that top photo. Paris has arguably the most spectacularly beautiful architecture and art and culture and history in the world, arguably. And these are the new buildings that are being built in Paris, France. But some cultures are resisting this. Some cultures are really trying to create beautiful imagery to invoke certain emotions in their population. Shockingly, this is Singapore, which is a spectacularly gorgeous city. I have always wanted to travel there. But Paris is allowing this stuff. One of the most iconic cities of all time, and this is what their architecture normally looks like. Worthy of praise and admiration at the very least. This is a very overtly obvious to me attempt to erase opportunity, to erase potential, to limit inspiration, and to try to uniformly organize everything in society to be the same, because we don't value actual diversity. We don't value actual culture. We might say that we value multicultural aspects of society. We might say that we value diversity. We might say we want everyone to look different and speak different and have their own ways of life. But in reality, the people in power have made it abundantly clear. We want everything to be exactly the same. Because when everything is exactly the same and people lack the opportunity to dream, people lack the opportunity to imagine, people lack the opportunity to create, they are a hell of a lot easier to control. The World Economic Forum leaders, the most powerful CEOs and political leaders and billionaires on the face of the planet, are doing this exact same behavior and pattern of motions that we see in art and architecture and infrastructure, in business, in entrepreneurship, by refusing to allow actual competition to exist in a free market space, and by buying every single company to house under the same umbrella. We've talked about that on the stream before, that like 5 companies control almost every single car brand on the face of the earth. Like 12 companies control almost every single brand of food that you would go buy and find at the grocery store. There are only a very small handful of companies that control all of the beauty products and skin products and shampoo. Like, you might think you have the illusion of choice. You might think you have the illusion of a whole multitude of diverse products to choose from. But in reality, we are slowly pushing everything in society and culture through this funnel to make everything exactly the same, to give you one choice, that you don't have the opportunity to choose things for yourself. We will tell you what you can have. Eventually, you guys are saying it before me in the live chat today, you will own nothing and you will be happy. This is, as Nitty Witty just said on Getter, this is own nothing and be happy culture. It is the most overt way of controlling the working class. Because if you can't enjoy a painting, if you can't enjoy art, if you can't enjoy a musical or a play that was written by someone inspired by something that they've seen, if you can't even sit on a beautiful bench looking at a beautiful light post, looking at a beautiful building across the street while you are waiting for your bus to take you home in the city that you live in, if everything is sharp edges and concrete slabs and square windows, you lack the imagination to think bigger for yourself, to dream bigger for yourself, to demand more for yourself than the very limited concrete cookie cutter world that the people in power want to build brick by brick, even by tearing down our history, by destroying beauty and replacing it with ugly everything. I don't find any of this coincidental at all. And the more that you think about culture in general and how everything is ultimately connected, the more you start to see that spider web start to form. I always feel like the guy in front of the corkboard meme with the red strings that they're stringing about everywhere, and like everything is connected, the crazy conspiracy theorist guy. But it's true. It is so true. Ultimately, the people in power are trying so hard to devalue everything in society so that we say everything has meaning, everything is beautiful, everything is spectacular, but in reality, nothing is. By the time we've done that, nothing is special if everything is special. And the easier it is to remove our capacity to reach our fullest potential as human beings, the easier it is going to be to control us, because we won't think bigger. We won't remember our history. We won't know what's possible for us to achieve, and we will forget how to demand better for ourselves, for our families, for our children, and for every generation who is going to come after us throughout all of human history. Nitty Witty, I'm so glad you just dropped in our Getter chat the reminder from 1984 which, to be honest, 2023 and going into 2024 feels a lot more like 1984 than the 2020s. I think they've honestly used this book as a manual for just everything that they need to do. We are inverting the truth. We are living in the upside down, like I always say, nodding to Stranger Things. But Nitty Witty just reminded us 1984's entire slogan for their government was "War is peace, freedom is slavery, diversity is sameness." That last part, diversity is sameness, I think is so interesting to think about, right? The beautiful, the artistic, the inspirational, the intricate things that human beings have been able to accomplish when we are allowed to thrive, like the Renaissance or other great periods throughout human history, only happen when we maximize human freedom. There's a reason that you're not seeing spectacular architecture and art and performing arts and music and fashion come out of North Korea. There's a reason that you're not seeing all of these things come out of Beijing for the most part. There's a reason that you're not seeing this come out of Moscow for the most part, or Havana, Cuba for the most part, or Venezuela. Where you are seeing human thriving more than just getting by to survive is when we maximize human freedom. And the reality that buildings in the United States of America mostly are changing to look like this, now looking like this, should terrify you. Because our outside world, as Winston Churchill reminds us, who is arguably one of the greatest political figures of all time, just a side note, and cultural. As Winston Churchill reminds us, we shape our buildings, and you can insert any word for buildings, art, architecture, music, fashion, etc. Thereafter, they shape us. If the imagery of our culture and Western civilization in America is looking less like this and more like this with every passing day, that should serve as a mirror, as a reflection, as a sign to us, like a guy doing the freaking arms at the airport runway, telling you when to take off. Your freedom is being stripped away. Your creativity is being stripped away. Your capacity to imagine, your capacity to create and appreciate and value beauty, your fullest potential as a human being is being stripped away. Do we want to create, or do we want to just go through the motions? I think it's a really valuable question for us to start asking. And we might not ever even notice this as we are walking around a downtown city, as we are driving in our commute to work, as we see art go super viral and sell for gajillions of dollars, Hunter Biden, on the internet, and we're shocked that a freaking circle on a canvas all of a sudden is worth tens of millions of dollars in their own time, when the best artists were never appreciated in their own time, but created art for eternity, like Vincent van Gogh. It blows my mind. Once you start noticing all of these little things, how much you can see they all relate to the ultimate cultural question of our time, with this "you will own nothing and you will be happy" new world order coming to fruition culturally, because people are afraid or people are totally unaware. It is time for us to start paying attention. Open your eyes. Don't just stare at your phone when you're walking on the sidewalk next time you are out and about and leaving your house. This weekend, when you go out and about and do something with your family, put your phone away in your purse, in your back pocket, somewhere you shouldn't be looking at it anyway if you're walking downtown in a big city, just situational awareness. But put it away, or turn off the radio for a minute when you're driving in your car and actually look around next time you leave your house. Pay attention to this stuff. Look at what billboards and advertisements look like. Next time you're scrolling through social media, look at what is trending and what's going viral. Is it beautiful? Is it worthy of our appreciation? Is it worthy of inspiration to try something new? Or is it just there? Does it just exist? Or does it have the capacity to inspire? Magic Def says, knowing is half the battle. Our ability to be aware of all of this is just as much of a powerful tool as any other way that we can fight back against the "you will own nothing and you will be happy" culture. It's time for us to bring beauty back into society, and we can all do that one day at a time. All right, I promised you I'd come back to the Roman Empire because this has been on my mind lately, so I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. There's this whole trend on TikTok right now that people are asking their boyfriends, husbands, or fiancés, or like men in their life how often they think about the Roman Empire. And apparently, men think about the Roman Empire multiple times a week and or day. Like, you guys think about the Roman Empire all the time. So if you are a man, I want you to drop in the chat right now how often you think about the Roman Empire. And if you are a woman, you should ask men in your life how often they do. But I'm also just dying to know what the female equivalent of thinking about the Roman Empire every day is. Like, what's something that women think about every single day? Brett Cooper on her stories on Instagram today, and I texted her afterward because I thought it was so funny, said her version of that is babies. She thinks about babies every single day. I could think about babies a lot. I don't know if I think about babies every single day. I don't even know what I think about every day that's random like that. But apparently, men think about Rome and the Roman Empire every day. I guess if more people thought about the Roman Empire every day, we'd have more beauty in society, so I would be okay with that. Alex says, I thought I was the only one until I saw the trend on TikTok. African Warlord thinks about the Roman Empire every day. Mountain Lover says, I don't really think about it that much, actually. Updog on Rumble says 7 times a day. Are you being serious? Or are you like trolling me right now? 7 times a day you think about the Roman Empire? Church says often is a big stretch, but I thought about it this week. That's so specific. That is so specific. HWD says I was just reading about Polycarp and church fathers in the Roman Empire. Dutch Canadian, I think about the Roman Empire a couple of times a week. You guys, this is wild to me. Mrock, not every day, but usually every week. African Warlord, mostly the Caesars. Mrock, I now feel oddly similar to everyone, LOL. Yeah, most people are taking this as I have never had a unique experience in my life. Alex, at least 3 times a week? This is just more and more proof to me that men and women could not be more fundamentally different from one another. Like, blows my mind. Glock Fanboy says once or twice a month. Third Pathways reminds us the reason most people are thinking about Rome right now is that Rome was destroyed from within, just like what's happening to Western culture. I think there's good reason that people think about the Roman Empire all the time, but I don't. My brain moves way too quickly to like come back to the same subject all the time. So what is the woman's equivalent of that? I don't even know. Maze Page says I've never thought about the Roman Empire, but I'll start. That's awesome. Maybe this is like a real thing. I don't even know that there is a female equivalent. Men think about one thing at a time, and females, women, think about multiple things at a time. It's one of the crazy brain structure psychological differentiations between us. So I don't know that women even have an equivalent to this, to be honest with you. It's like the capacity for men to think about nothing. Like when you ask your boyfriend or your fiance or your husband, hey, what are you thinking about? And he says nothing, it's a 50-50 chance that he either literally means nothing, like men have the capacity to think about nothing, or he's thinking about something random like the Roman Empire and he's like, she doesn't need to know that. Or like gorillas yeeting themselves off a cliff and she doesn't need to know that. Women literally lack the capacity to think about nothing. Like you are always thinking about something. So it blows my mind. That's probably one of the biggest ways that we fundamentally misunderstand each other. But maybe women just lack any equivalent of thinking about the Roman Empire most times a week. Wild, wild stuff. You guys, create beauty. That's the best advice and the best message I can give to you taking away from this stream. You often think about the arts and artistic culture as being hijacked from the left, which I think in modern American culture is pretty true today. It definitely has a political lean. It certainly has partisan politics infused in it, but it shouldn't have to. I grew up dancing every single day. I was a competitive dancer for like 18 years. I was a theater kid in high school. I've always been an admirer of Broadway and musical theater and performing arts. I have dabbled in the visual arts, but I'm not quite as good at all of that. But I think there's something special about art that many people have written off in recent years because it's like a mushy leftist thing to be interested in, which is the farthest thing from the truth. That is unbelievably ridiculous in terms of an assertion. But we need good people who can appreciate what human beings are capable of, who can appreciate traditional values, who can appreciate faith, who can appreciate conservatism, to start creating fashion, to start creating visual paintings, to start redesigning architecture to be intricate and detailed and beautiful again. No more of this wear a garbage bag on the Fashion Week runway in New York City crap, or buildings that just look like the weirdest, ugliest conglomeration of concrete that you've ever seen in your entire life. We need people willing to think beyond the confines of our postmodern society to speak up and to fight for what's worth more. Third Pathway said at the very beginning of our Rumble chat, the term postmodern is so strange. Post meaning beyond, modern meaning modernity, equals straight into insanity. In many different examples throughout our culture today, I think we are living in a postmodern world. We aren't just talking about modern values, modern lifestyles, modern art, modern architecture, modern traditions today. We are talking about the natural fulfillment of that, to the point that anything goes. And we say that all the time. There is no truth. My truth is different from your truth. There is no morality. My morality is different from your morality. There is no beauty, because a block of concrete in a cube as a homage to an assassinated president is just as beautiful as the Lincoln Memorial. There is no fashion. There is no human beauty standards, or hygiene standards for that matter. The more we go into this world of objective destruction of anything that is beautiful, the more we live in this insanity period in human history, where lies have become truth and truth has become lies, where ugly has become beautiful and beautiful has become ugly, where men have become women and women have become men. And the more we allow this to happen to our society, the easier it's going to be to control all of humanity. I don't want to live in a world like that. So it's time for us to keep fighting for beauty. And if other people aren't going to create it, we have to create it ourselves. All right, you guys, we are going to jump over to Locals right now, which is our smaller community where you guys can get to know us a little bit better. Typically, we will just stay on this stream for our post-stream Q&A, but as I mentioned right at the beginning, they are doing a little bit of testing right now on the back end for the Rumble servers for how they can improve some of their live streaming capacities. So I'm just going to drop the link right now in our live chat for you to join our community at large, and then we'll start a brand new live stream in just about like 3 minutes to do our post-stream Q&A over there. As you guys are leaving the stream today, please do me a huge, huge favor and smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you are watching, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, or Getter. And as we're leaving, I want to give you guys a huge opportunity to check out a very great friend of the stream, Public Square, who is our sponsor of the stream today. Public Square has been a friend of mine for a very, very long time, since they were a teeny tiny company in Southern California, and now they are a national network of 65,000 plus small businesses that are all pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom. If you are looking for businesses to start supporting as a conscious consumer, everything from clothes to the food that you eat to people who do your taxes and personal trainers and coffee shops, everything that you can possibly imagine, this is where you need to go start looking. And I know we have a ton of international viewers. It is coming abroad very soon as well, and they have an international wait list on their website. You guys can check out Public Square at publicsq.com or use their app, which is a lot more user-friendly in my opinion, and where you can start checking out from different businesses by downloading the Public Square app at Public SQ on the App Store or Google Play. I love you guys so very much. Go appreciate some good, beautiful art today. We're back for the stream tomorrow, time TBD, because my grandfather is going to be on the stream, and I hope that you guys have the best Thursday evening. We'll see you soon in just a few minutes on Locals.